Hi everyone, this is Indrek from AlphaBoost. Welcome to our webinar. And this time we're talking about voice-enabled virtual assistants. So happy to welcome all of you here, and let's dive right in. So what I will be covering is briefly, I'll do a brief introduction about the company, so you have some understanding of who we are and what we do, and then I'll dive into the topic of voice and voice-enabled virtual assistants. If you're new to this webinar, then we publish these twice a month, and these are for the industry professionals to get a deeper dive into conversational AI and topics around them. We have a variety of different webinars from the past, such as how to measure your bots, how to build virtual assistants on WhatsApp, main reasons why chatbot projects fail. So some really interesting insight from us. So feel free to check out our YouTube channel, search for AlphaBoost AI, and you will find all the videos there available for you to use and watch. About us as a company, so we have been around for a few years, and what we're doing is we're automating the messaging space. So what we do is we bring companies into the messaging era. We build chatbots and also live chat solutions for the enterprise. And thus far, our chatbots are doing 250,000 conversations each month with customers. So we have a wealth of experience to know how those solutions work at scale. And in a nutshell, what we provide is an end-to-end product composed of the chat window where you place your chatbot. It can be on mobile or internet on your website, or we can connect to, any third-party messaging channel. We have the whole conversational interface for building chatbots, both with the APIs and with the graphical user interface, and also the algorithms to do intent detection. And if you're interested, we also have a live chat product where your agents can use conversations that the bot forwards to them with intelligent routing, and you have all the features of the live chat, including analytics. So the whole suite of messaging automation products that you can use. We have been featured on CNN with some of the work we did with the COVID-19 chatbot that was free for the community, and you can share it worldwide. So let's dive into the topic of what is a voice-enabled virtual assistant. So voice is a topic that gets talked about quite a lot this year and also the previous years. So we thought it's worthy of a webinar on its own. So, when we think of a virtual assistant, then, and we can just call it chatbot for the sake of simplicity, or, conversational AI solution is, it's a program that understands what human users say and provides them helpful answers. So when talking about voice bots, then these are essentially chatbots that you operate through voice. So you ask them something with voice command, and they answer back with a voice command. But the chatbot is an integral part in that voice bot. And most often it's thought in the context of Alexa, Siri, or Google Home, and those types of devices and solutions. I think the applicability of voice bots, and then we'll talk about this as well, but it's relatively large. But most people, the first voice bot that they interacted with was Siri. A few years back came Alexa and Google Assistant. So these are the type of interfaces that people have think about, at least when they think of voice bots, and it's true, but there's also other cases around it. So, when we talk about the smart speaker environment in terms of those devices, then, you definitely see it has grown quite considerably, quarter over quarter of the past years. And only, to witness a slight decline in the beginning of this year, this first quarter. So, one might think that maybe the smart speaker market is already getting saturated because the products have been out for quite a long time, and those that have wanted have purchased them. But nonetheless, there's a variety of players. You have your usual suspects, the large tech companies. But what's more important, one thing is the spread of those devices. The other is the usability of devices. So if you think of those devices as like app stores, then how many apps or in the case of Alexa, skills there are available. And here you can see a breakdown of the skills per time frame that has been added to Alexa. That pace is slowly decreasing. So I think somehow the verdict in the industry seems to be, as of now, that there's the rate of growth of skills on those platforms is slowly declining. So there's a variety of smart speakers out there. There's a variety of skills out there. Currently we might go through the phase of actually figuring out what skills are more useful and then what skills are less useful. So kind of the early days of the App Store. But clearly the presence of voice and voice bots is large, and the global footprint is large. But it doesn't just, voice bots doesn't just only mean that it's smart speakers. Google 1 or 2 years back rolled out Duplex that as of today can call on behalf of users to book haircuts. Previously it was doing restaurant bookings. So one way to think of voice is that these devices that you ask them, like Siri, and they give you information. The other is that it's these let's say like your own secretaries or assistants that you tell them to do something, and in the case of Duplex, they will book you some appointments and things. So this, we can also consider this as a voice bot. In addition, some of the work we have been doing is WhatsApp chatbots, where you can send voice files into WhatsApp. So you send a voice memo into the WhatsApp chatbot. It will figure out from voice to text what is the meaning of the message I'm sending, and then it will reply to me through text or also through a voice memo. So we can also consider this as a voice bot. So I think the question is, what do we think is a voice bot? And it can be multiple things. When you talk, you're driving your car and you use something that's voice activated, then that's also a voice bot. So there's a variety of use cases where voice can be used, and all of them employ some sort of voice bot intelligent understanding of things. So the applicability of voice bots is large, is the idea that we're driving towards. So if you think of yourself and your company and you think of, okay, so what do I need to do, or what's the prerequisite I need to have when setting up a voice bot? And after that, we'll go into sort of the use cases as well and some suggestions. So I think one of the things, if you think of technically, is voice becomes two integral parts of the system: is speech to text and text to speech. So speech to text is getting your voice, the audio that you're saying, into text format. And text to speech is getting the text or the answer that the bot has into speech format, so that you can actually listen to it in audio. And one of the things that we have noticed when working with voice bots is that those speech to text solutions, these processing speeds, you have to be wary when figuring them out for longer sentences. So if people are talking with a voice bot and they are saying 2-3 sentences, then the number of words gets relatively long. So those speech-to-text systems, actually the processing speed there might not be so fast that they would have to wait for a few seconds. The user has to wait for a few seconds to actually get a response from the solution. So those things are happening in real time, the conversion of speech-to-text. So be mindful of that. If people are using your solution and they are expecting to process a few sentences, then that might take time to understand the speech-to-text. Also, the text-to-speech capability is something that if the voice bot is giving an answer that's 10 words long, that's fine. But if they're reading out something that's a paragraph, but the user expecting a few words, then again that creates some sort of dissonance between the user and the voice bot. So these are the things you have to bear in mind, because the whole voice experience slows things down, as opposed to chatbots, where just you're typing and you get the answer relatively almost immediately, right? So the second part is the intent detection capabilities, because even if you do speech to text, you have to extract meaning from that text. So what does the user actually want? And this is similar to what chatbots would be using. So you need to understand the accuracy of the user. And one of the things, and this is also a piece of advice that we give for companies, is that these voice bots need to understand users at first try or second try at most, because if I'm a user, I'm talking something, there's some processing time, and then the bot reads me an answer and it's wrong, and I've been waiting for 5-10 seconds, then I'm getting pretty impatient, and I want to have the right answer, and maybe I try once again, but if I then don't get the right answer, then maybe I'll just give up. Whereas I think in the case of text-based chatbots, those things, you can write once, you don't get the answer, you can write again in a few seconds, and it's a bit quicker the turn when you get the answer. And the third thing you should consider is the channel where to deploy the solution. So will it be as one of the smart speakers? It's your mobile app. What is that channel? But we will talk about this in a second. And some of the things that we use, or specifically how we use our solution, is that the key to focus for us is text to meaning. So what do things mean? I think speech to text is largely something that companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft have figured out with 99-point-something% accuracy, and they're really good at it, at least in the majority of languages. Maybe in the smaller languages that are not as with only a few million speakers, they are not that good. But I think in the majority of the languages, the quality of those solutions is really good. And that's similar to text to speech, right? So generating speech from text, those solutions get better as well. But I think the area that is lagging behind, and because it's really hard to achieve, is text to meaning. So if somebody says my salary has not arrived, and it tells it to a bank, then getting that from speech to text, I think it's relatively simple. But then understanding what it means, do they, are they looking for where their payment is, or do they want to get employed, or what's the intent behind it? I think those types of things are relatively complex. So this is the area we focus on. But there's a variety of companies out there that if you want to build a voice bot, I think all those Googles and Amazons, you can do the whole end-to-end thing there. Or if you want to build like a more detailed and focused to your area a case, then you can employ companies like ours or similar type. And sort of one of the things I also wanted to touch upon is the common cases. So what are actually the use cases? And if you are a brand or a company and you're thinking about voice, what are things you could do, and what are things to keep in mind while you think of what you should be doing? Because voice is, like I said, it's a new interface, and you have to understand sort of what it stands for and what it is and what it isn't. So, those that use smart speakers, the more main voice use cases are, playing music, getting the weather information, maybe listening to news, or some type of home automation, right? So, putting on the lights or turning them on and off. And this, for me personally, it's the same. I've used a smart speaker for a few years, and it exactly is that. And why it seems relatively simple, but why it is that these things you do repetitively. So these are the things that you could use your phone to play music, but it's easier to do so with a voice command, just telling something and asking, and right away the music is being played. The same with the weather. Maybe you want to know it every day, every morning. You just a habit. You just ask it, and you get it right away. Like what's the temperature outside? So the whole thing with voice is that I think that for the users, the question for them is that, is it easier to do through voice or through my phone, right? And if your phone is somewhere away, then you just yell out and you get the answer. But of course, some things are easier with the phone, just with the phone. So you open the app and you see maybe the when it's going to rain, at what time, or how much rain there's going to be, or will the sun when will the sun rise or set, or maybe you, with one glance at the weather app, you see things that you otherwise would maybe have to ask 5 questions to the voice bot, right? And in those cases, you would clearly open up the app and see the information in 3 seconds, instead of asking them one by one and spending a minute of conversation with Alexa to know about what's happening with the weather in specific detail. So I think these are the things that when you think of users want the quickest path to the answer, quickest literally in seconds, things that take them the least amount of time. And you have to be wary of that because those voice conversations can be somewhat long. So these are the things for the everyday use. But the key component here is that what are the things that are happening often, or quite often, because then those repetitive cases are something that you can build upon. As a company, when you think of those things, then what is that you can do as a business? And when you first thought of channels, is that maybe it's something that as a food companies, what they have been doing is you can order pizza through voice. I think Domino's had a very great success in that. So you order pizza, like, I don't know, once a week or something. You find the channel, you have a repetitive purchase. It's super easy to do, right? There have been banks that have built voice apps, or Alexa skills and Google Assistant dialogues that to check balances and make transactions. Various entertainment companies have made games for TV shows and movies. In the healthcare space, there have been for understanding if you're allergic to pollen, then what's the pollen counts around you in a location-based manner. So there have been successful voice-operated sort of products, but again, the key here has been repeatability. So what is the thing that your customers are looking for? And I think what this means for you as a brand, when you think about it, is that what is the setting that this solution will be with the virtual assistant, and is this a better interface than text? So I think when you think of text or apps as an interface, then those interfaces are, in a sense, very convenient because they don't create sound. You can open them up whenever. You don't disturb other people with it, and with some pushing a button or writing something very short, you get the end result of the service or the product you want to use. Whereas with voice, it's something that you have to say something out loud. So if there's other people around you, maybe you disturb them, or you don't want to say things in front of them, it's a bit slower. So you have to think of what's the interface, what's the context of the user. So I think a couple of things, and this is when we also advise companies to think of voice, is that there are some touch points where it's great to use. For example, if you have a website chatbot, then that requires first if people have difficulties with their vision and they don't really see small text, then on the web, having a voice interface is easier for those people. So to ask questions and to get answers instead of finding small keys on the keyboard and typing. That's one thing where to have voice input output. The other thing is if you're using website chatbots or mobile apps to gather data. So if you're looking for people to answer some questionnaires or provide input, then they might say that it's easier for me just to insert information through voice. So I will speak, you will transcribe it, make the speech to text, and then you will have that data. So it's definitely easier for me, and it's quicker for me to speak for a few sentences than to write that on a keyboard, especially on a mobile phone when it's slower than a full keyboard. So again, I think that's a convenience for the user. So if you're gathering that type of data and running surveys, maybe just ask people to record voice memos, for example, and you will just get that information people are willing to provide a lot more information and quicker, because they don't have to spend 5-10 minutes on typing text. Also, you can use it for your customer service team, so you can use voice memos, so that if you have an issue, then instead of just typing things, they can maybe in WhatsApp or in your chatbot send you a voice memo that then your team can follow up with, and in that memo they can be more they can explain more, they can give more information, you will understand the customer sentiment better, and it's just an easier channel for the customer. And another thing is you can make an Alexa skill or a Google Assistant action, right? If that is your sort of target entry into the customers, and you know that your customer base is using those devices and you want to have a presence there. So with that, there's a variety of things. I think in summary, the voice space is very interesting, and there's a lot of ways where you can integrate voice. Like if you're a car manufacturer, then in those types of things, obviously it makes sense, because you cannot text and drive at the same time. So you can just use voice input, and it makes a lot of sense. But I think in other fields, you have to be mindful of your user. What's their journey? What are they trying to accomplish? And if you can use voice to make the process quicker for them, I think this is where users will greatly appreciate the ease of which to do things, because it's really about speed. If it takes them with text, it takes them 60 seconds, but with voice it takes 10 seconds. Then clearly it's a 6x better experience. So I think this is something to keep in mind, that when you think of your voice solutions, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be happy to help you with any questions you might have. Okay, so let's end the. We'll end the slides here. We'll see if people participating, if there are any questions that people might have. So if you have questions, just feel free to write them in the questions section, and I'll take them. Okay, so we have a first question. Are there any platforms or channels that are preferred and easier or better to use when deploying a voice-enabled virtual assistant? How to determine which channel works the best? Okay, so it's a good question. I think the preferred channels for a skill is Alexa or Google Home. I think these are the two most popular voice platforms. So if you're thinking about that, then go for one of those. Depending in which geography you are, you might do some research into how many people use the Google Home, Google Assistant, how many people use Amazon Alexa in your geography. But that's what you can think of. And which channel works the best. I think these you'll find there's quite a bit of statistics around the number of skills, I think by categories or things that are present in each of those platforms. So you can see what's the popularity of the service that you're providing. And I think one thing, once you publish those skills, is definitely communicating that to your user base. So ideally you would have a user base that is looking for voice-enabled solutions, and then you create that for them, and then you tell your community that this is the channel they can use. So this would be my suggestion on looking at channels. Okay, let's see if there are any other questions. So if you have them, feel free to put them in the questions part of the webinar platform. Before we get more questions, I think one of the things that we are seeing is that I'm talking a lot about understanding user journey, but I think it's always good to put yourself into the shoes of the user or the customer, in terms of where they are. I think one of the things, if let's say you can put them into physical stores, for example, if they want to do maybe a query or a search, because now maybe With COVID, people don't want to touch those screens, those in the shopping malls. So maybe if those were voice activated, people would use them more. So you just have to think of the business you're running and where are the user touch points that users are not communicating with you right now, but would want to do so. And of course, one big thing is, things we didn't cover, but of course, is phones, right? So IVRs, so those, press 1 for this and 2 for that. Or some of those more advanced cases are that you are actually on the phone saying what you want, and then they route you to the right agent. These can also be considered a form of voice bots. Whether how efficient they are or how happy users are to use them is a different story. But maybe that's a thing that you can use to intelligently channel people to the right channel where they should talk to agents or not. So I think voice has a lot of ways to be intersected. Another question: in your experience, is there a correlation between some business sectors / demographics and voice technology usage? There's no single answer for this. I think, again, it all depends. But I would say that, clearly it has been the case that, the generations that's now, 30 years or younger, they definitely have grown up in the smartphone era. And I think, messaging, texting, using apps is absolutely everyday best practice for them. So they could be inclined to use messaging more and just text-based because, they are not using the phone so much as to call others. It's not a phone, it's just, pocket computer. Whereas a generation that's older, 40, 50 plus, they maybe are still more inclined to use a phone in terms of resolving things and sort of talking to a person and figuring things out. So there might be some generational differences, but of course, there's no one single answer for that. And I think, phone support in general for big companies is not going to go away because certain things the bots just cannot handle. You cannot do everything maybe through chat, or you have a longer question and you just want to, you have to talk about it and explain more. So there will be use cases for both. Okay, and that being said, let's see if we have one. One more question from one of our audience members, and then after that we can wrap this up. Okay, I think we are good for now. No more questions. So we will end it here. Thank you for everyone for attending this webinar. I hope it was useful. And we have other webinars on our YouTube channel, so feel free to check them out. So search for AlphaBlues AI on YouTube, and you'll find plenty of content. If there are some webinars that you want us to cover in the future that we haven't covered yet, just shoot us an email, hello@alphablues.com, and we'll be happy to take a more in-depth view into that topic. Until then, take care.